Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about troubling, irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 What's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
Protesters walking now, but they have several cars that have sort of joined the protest as well. And it's now just sort of a merry caravan. It is worth pointing out that it has been entirely peaceful, sometimes angry, but entirely peaceful. A few people doing some graffiti. When others saw them doing the graffiti, they would shut them down, make them stop doing it. Bottle thrown, which is not uncommon. So there is some of that, but for the most part, they have been very, very peaceful. They haven't been destroying anything. They like to take it out on the media, as everybody does, but rather than yell at us and throw stuff at us, not in a mean way. And we'll be fine.
What's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not generally speaking unruly, but fires have been.
What's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
Dozens were arrested.
What's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
As they were in Atlanta, where crowds set fire to police cars.
What's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
And attacked the CNN building as the governor declared a state of emergency.
They just threw something on fire, Chris, a firecracker. It's on fire.
And what's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
In Detroit, police said shots were fired from a vehicle into a crowd of demonstrators, killing a 19-year-old.
What's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
And chaos even came to Donald Trump's front door. The White House was briefly placed in lockdown as the mob descended. One man even daring to climb a government building to spray his rage on the side.
And what's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
In all, 21 states witnessed violence, and beneath the fire and the fury, the same age-old message.
And what's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
The death in police custody is continuing to spark protests all across the country now.
Minneapolis now declaring a state of emergency and activating the National Guard.
And what's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
Videos of the latest coming out of Minneapolis, where you can see many businesses destroyed, buildings burned. People have set fires to shopping centers, restaurants, auto parts stores throughout Minneapolis, and even the Minneapolis police precinct.
And what's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
And the destruction. In fact, CBS reporters out of Minneapolis are reporting that they are seeing signs up on buildings saying this is black or minority owned, to try and keep those looters from destroying their hard-earned businesses. But it has not worked in some cases.
And what's been an overwhelmingly peaceful movement.
3rd Precinct of the Minneapolis Police Department, on fire. Nearby businesses ablaze. This is how the night of May 28th...
What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The New York Times actually wrote an article about it, that they don't even care. It's so dishonest, and they've poisoned the minds of the voters. But unfortunately for them, I think the voters are seeing through it. I think they're going to see through it. We'll find out on November 8th, but I think they're going to see through it.
Sir,
If you look, excuse me, Chris, if you look at your voter rolls, you will see millions of people that are registered to vote. Millions. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from Pew Report and other places. Millions of people that are registered to vote that shouldn't be registered to vote. So, let me just give you one other thing. So I talk about the corrupt media. I talk about the millions of people. I'll tell you one other thing. She shouldn't be allowed to run. She's guilty of a very, very serious crime. She should not be allowed to run. And just in that respect, I say it's rigged. Because she...
Strongly saying that there is no evidence of widespread election fraud in the state of Ohio or the nation. So let's just dispense with that.
Wait a second. The New York City Election Commissioner, Al Sharpton, said the other day there is rampant fraud in New York. And then Mayor de Blasio said, shut up, kid. The incumbents always protect the system, no matter how corrupt it is.
There's no evidence of voter fraud, widespread voter fraud in this country.
The Cooperative Congressional Research Report cited by the Washington Post points out that somewhere between 2 and 5%
Betsy, please,
of illegal voters vote.
We've cited so
Those
much
were
evidence.
registered
Stop, or I'm going to have to cut this interview short.
And the president wants to see the integrity of our election systems upheld, and that's the purpose of his comments.
Sir Sanders could offer no evidence of widespread illegal voting, but these kind of allegations date. There's no evidence of that. Back then, just like now, he offered no evidence. The voter commission he set up a short time later, in part, critics say, to validate his groundless claim, was disbanded after a year without finding evidence of the kind of voter fraud the president was alleging back then, and still is today, despite the advice he got nearly 2 years ago from a leading Republican.
And here we go. This is a Fox News election alert. Pennsylvania goes to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And there's the big board, the 20 electoral votes from the state of Pennsylvania. We just got new metrics in. Donald J. Trump is the president of the United States elect.
Russian attacks, Russian hackers tried to break into U.S. election systems.
The Russians managed to get us paranoid about the security of our own election system.
CNN projects Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States, winning the White House and denying President Trump a second term. We're able to make this projection because CNN projects Biden wins Pennsylvania.
But this year, experts are more confident that...
I think it is safe to say this is the most secure election we've ever held in the United States.
Situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. Voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. Voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
By Trump supporters in Philadelphia and a series of vote fraud allegations by the president himself with no evidence to support those allegations. Have you seen any evidence of fraud occurring in your state?
He made very, very serious allegations without any evidence to support it.
Voting machines. Our democracy depends on them to accurately record each and every ballot. You go to the polls, you cast your vote, your voice is heard, right?
And what we're saying is we're not sure what the voter intent is, but we're going to allow the adjudicators to make that call based on any kind of state statutes. So,
software. Watchdogs in the Philippines have grappled with what they believe is widespread Smartmatic and Dominion-related election manipulation for 10 years. Attorney and former Filipino Congressman Glenn Chong scoured audit logins to uncover how Smartmatic machines had somehow preloaded and transmitted thousands of votes before polls even opened.
And what we're saying is we're not sure what the voter intent is, but we're going to allow the adjudicators to make that call based on any kind of state statutes. So,
from under this table. This table, the black one, was placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So she put that table there. So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting, is the person who put the table there at 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table. Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in the red. So he just pulled one out. So what are these ballots doing there, separate from all the other ballots? And why are they only counting them whenever the place is cleared out with no witnesses? Is the question. So these machines can process about 3,000 ballots an hour. You have multiple machines there, and they're there for 2 hours. So you do the math. How many ballots went through those machines in those 2 hours when there was no one there to supervise, to be present, consistent with your statutes and rules, to supervise the tabulation? We believe that could easily be, and probably is certainly, beyond the margin of victory in this race.
The committee scheduled a public hearing with Dominion Voting Systems to be held now. The members of the State Government Committee were looking forward to publicly addressing the plethora of accusations of Dominion Voting Systems in a format which would have allowed open and honest dialogue. I was impressed at what appeared to be the willingness of Dominion Voting Systems to address accusations, and it would have put 1.3 million Pennsylvanians who use their machines at ease, including myself. Thinking Dominion was willing to publicly back up their product, which Pennsylvania taxpayers invested millions to purchase and voters entrusted with their sacred ballots, was truly remarkable. I truly felt Pennsylvanians in the nation could get some answers into the truth of the effectiveness of Dominion Voting Systems. Unfortunately, last evening, Dominion Voting Systems lawyered up and backed out of their commitment to the people of Pennsylvania to provide their input in a public format and discuss their voting systems, of which 1.3 Pennsylvanians entrusted. Instead of running towards the light of honesty and integrity, Dominion Voting Systems retreated to the darkness. Why? Why would a vendor of public goods fear discussing their products sold to the public for the public good? If Dominion's products were successful and operated as they were supposed to, why wouldn't Dominion take the opportunity to publicly review its success? How hard is it to say our ballot machines worked exactly as promised and they are 100% accurate? Why, after weeks of accusations...
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.